Guys, it's Fonzie from DipYourCar.com. This is now episode 5.
Five.
I
Yep.
think it is episode number 5. Dan was giving me a heads up. Yep, it's episode 5 of the Dip Your Car Dipping Industry DipCast, or podcast, if you will. With me, as always, is Adam. We have a very interesting show for you guys today. Some topics that have been coming up that we wanted to clear up, some things that people have been asking over and over again. What do we have on the docket today?
Well, we're going to touch on 3 topics, one of which is dipping taillights. Lots of questions about that, what products to use for taillights, headlights, things like that. Some questions about Pearlizer specifically.
Yeah.
I know that's
Pearlizer is a weird bird. I mean, that one came out, people didn't necessarily know how or when to use it or exactly
Right.
what it did, and still to this day, we'll go over that. I don't
And
wanna
we get
say-
so many questions about Pearlizer versus pearls.
yeah, every single day.
Right. And then lastly, which I think is the topic we should start off with, is the benefits and drawbacks of mixing pearls with not only just matte clear for a matte finish, matte clear with glossifier for a satin finish, and then finally, lately you've been doing a couple of videos where you've been mixing the pearls directly in the Plasti Dip.
Right. Yeah, and ever since we did the first video for that, which was just a couple weeks ago or a month or so ago, it was it was a
Hunter
green pearl into hunter green PDS.
Right.
Was it sage green?
I think Nebula green.
Nebula green. Yeah, probably. When we did that, it lit a fire because there's all these people that have been using pearls and doing really well with them, haven't used pearls because they're afraid to use them,
Right.
and then you have the people who have been using pearls and not getting the best results. And then when you learn that, wait a minute, I can mix pearls directly into colored PDS. Why haven't we been doing this the whole time?
Right.
We actually, when we did that video, there was a guy, I forgot his name, who put up on the Dip Your Car community Facebook page. He put that video up and goes, I feel kind of like an idiot. I could have been doing this the whole time. Why haven't we been doing this the whole time?
Right.
And now it's not a turnkey thing to where it's always going to work every time perfectly. There are ways to do that right and ways to do that and not get great results. And when I say great results, I think the worst thing that can happen when you're using pearls directly into PDS is that the pearls just aren't going to show up very much.
Mhm.
And I think that there are color combinations where you're going to see a ton of pearlescent effect, like when we did the video that we just did with the sapphire blue into the black and blue. That completely changed the color of that dip.
Right.
It went from a deep, dark blue, which is way darker than navy, and almost had that blackish look in the shadow. And you didn't see the car in person yet. It completely changed the way that color looks, and you can really see a pearlescent look to it. It's a matte color by definition. It's a matte finish by definition. I wouldn't call it satin, but it's got a pearlescent finish for sure. The light hits that, and there's so much going on. So to take a step back, if you're going to use pearls, you've got some options. You can jump right into matte clear. You could drop them into a mixture of matte clear and glossifier. You can go right into glossifier alone, and then you can go into colored PDS.
We've actually been getting a lot of questions about that. Oh, can I add the pearls directly into the glossifier? And I think you should probably go into a little detail about that too, for sure.
Yeah, and we can touch on each one. When you're going into matte clear only, from a pearl suspension point of view, which means are the pearls going to sit? Or if you spray them, the ability to suspend pearls means if you're going to spray it onto the side of a car and you do a wet coat, for example, are the pearls going to stay put, or are they going to travel down the front of the car on a vertical surface, for example? Or are they going to pool up? From a pearl suspension point of view, matte clear is perfectly fine. Viscosity is great for that. But from where you're going to lose is clarity, because clarity plays a monstrous role in the abilities for pearls to really work and shine and look their best. And I think a lot of people are going to get a very big eye-opener when the new top coat comes out, and see like, oh my God, this is what pearls could have looked like the whole time.
Right.
So matte clear, very easy to use, great suspension, lacking clarity, so you're going to have like a frosted look to it. Matte clear and glossifier, as everybody knows, is kind of the best of both worlds. You're going to get a little bit more clarity from the glossifier. You're going to get more of a sheen. You're going to get that satin finish. And then the matte clear comes in to give you more of that pearl suspension.
Right.
And with that, glossifier, for example, glossifier is going to be, at least right now, the clarity, the highest clarity that you can get until the new top coat comes out. So you're going to get a lot of advantage with clarity there. You're going to get obviously a more glossy finish, but you're going to lose on the suspension. It doesn't have the viscosity to give it that stick.
Right.
And I think that if you are using pearl in a glossifier only, and you're a beginner dipper, I think you should be a little bit wary of that.
Right, and that's what I wanted you to touch on, because I get that phone call a lot, and I'll always let the person know we only recommend that for the most advanced dippers. You can always go ahead and add a layer of glossifier on top.
Right.
So you're playing a kind of dangerous game right there when you're putting a pearl in a very thin product.
Yeah, and there's guys out there that do it all the time. Ricky from Jersey Dips uses glossifier in his pearls all the time. But he uses advanced level equipment. He's been dipping forever. And he's the first one to go on Facebook and be like, man, that's easy. I can do that all the time.
Right.
But, and he knows the deal. It's not something that everybody can do. You got to be careful. So the last being putting pearls into colored PDS, which is now one of my favorite things to do.
Right, and we all know that Jared in the office is really excited that
Jared
started to do that.
For people who don't know, Jared is our marketing and media manager at DipYourCar. Very busy guy, very quirky guy. He has been hounding me for, I don't know, a year to do a video mixing pearls directly into PDS.
Right, and anytime we'd talk with the technicians, he'd always say, mix it.
Yeah, exactly. My worry was pearls were new last year. We wanted to give the average consumer one road to go down to focus and not make it too broad of a spectrum. Now pearls have been around forever. People are ready to experiment. They're ready to try new stuff. It's a perfect time for that. Now, where you can go right and wrong adding pearls directly into PDS is picking the color of pearl, meaning is it going to be a color matching pearl or is it contrasting? If you take World Rally Blue and you drop 50 grams of World Rally Blue into a light blue gown or a flex blue gown, you're going to get an amazing pearlescent blue. If you drop 50 grams of World Rally Blue into camo tan or yellow, what is that going to do? I mean, I honestly don't know.
That's testing
I don't
right there.
even know. But if you're trying to get yourself one pearlescent color, use color matching. Keep your head on color matching. Stick blue to blue, green to green, yellow to yellow, purple to purple, so on and so on. And then you got to remember what's going to eat it up. What colors out there are just going to eat your pearl alive? If you drop a very lightweight pearl, like tangerine sky, team orange, the yellow pearls are very lightweight, meaning they don't have a lot of substance and color coverage to them. If you drop a lightweight pearl into black, for example, that pearl's probably going to get swallowed up and muted. Whether or not it's going to change the color and make it look different, it probably will, but it's probably going to get muted. So realistically, what you want to do is do the testing if you can. I know not everybody can just buy speed shapes and Provals and 5-gram samples, and not everybody wants to wait.
Right.
But testing is huge.
In the long run, doesn't that make more sense than buying all that product to do an entire car, making that mixture, and being disappointed with your final outcome?
Yeah, of course. If you're going to talk about what the most logical thing to do is, do the testing. Grab 5-gram samples. They're super cheap. Grab a Proval. You can reuse it for 22 ounces worth of spraying. The one sticking point there is the product. Do they want to buy an entire gallon? And what I usually tell people is you're going to end up getting gallons for your project anyway. So you could pre-order that one matte clear gallon, for example, and use little bits of it, 4 ounces here, 4 ounces there, for your testing, and then just put that aside and add it to whatever you're going to use for your project moving forward. So if you're going to order 3 gallons of Pearl Top Coat, for example, for your project, get one up front, do your testing. Either way, you can do it however you want.
Right.
But what you want to do is try to figure out a way to visualize what you want your end result to be first. Find a car online that looks the way you want yours to look, or have a color in your head, and then try to build a plan to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So usually like colors work really well with each other. You drop yellow pearls into yellow, it's going to work. You drop blue into blue and so forth, it's going to work. I would really suggest sticking with 50 grams per gallon though. If you go 25, you're going to see little bits and specks of pearl added to that color, but you're not going to get a pearlescent finish. Maybe that's what you're looking for. The other thing that you want to look for is the size of the pearl, because there are small particle pearls, there are medium size, and then there are large particle pearls. Small particle being like a World Rally Blue, a Sora Blue, something like that. Medium size is like a color flip pearl, which you can definitely see is a larger, sparklier size. And then you got your large size pearls like an alien pearl. And what you're going to see here is if you mix small particle pearls into colored PDS gallons, you're going to be affecting the color. You're going to be building a nice, rich, beautiful pearlescent coating, and like almost like one in itself.
Mm-hmm.
If you drop medium or let's just say large particle pearls into colored PDS, you're going to almost see like a flake effect, where you're going to these larger particle pearls are going to disperse themselves farther apart,
Right.
and you're going to see those specks essentially and those flakes within it. So I'm not saying large particle pearls don't work. I've seen people drop GC47 into black and it looks really cool. They will work. It all depends on what you want your end result to be. So always keep that in mind as you go. And obviously, if you have any questions about this, you guys have heard me say it a million times. If you're not sure what you want to do or you want to talk through with somebody, just call customer service at DipYourCar. Adam is there every day. The rest of the team is there. There will be somebody there to talk you through the entire project from A to Z. We only do dipping. You know, there's a lot of people that have tried to come to us and have us sell, you know, bed liners and Xeon or different headlights and all these crazy things. There's a reason why we only stick with our niche, because that's what we eat, sleep, and breathe all day. Right. So if somebody wants to call and talk about their dipping project, that's perfectly fine. You know, we're going to be able to do that because that's what we're there for.
And one thing I actually wanted to touch on when you were saying about, you know, some people don't want to necessarily do the testing because they don't want to wait, or because, you know, they have to spend money on the testing and then spend money on the full scale. The DipYourCar community page is another great resource for people to use. It's a great forum. You know, if you post a question, oftentimes within 10, 15 minutes, you'll have an answer. You know, we have installers on there. A lot of the DipYourCar staff is on there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and do-it-yourselfers. So it's a great resource for everybody to use and pose those questions. Hey, has anybody used Sora Blue in Flex Blue? What would it look like? And people, if they've done it, usually will post photos. And if they haven't done it, sometimes you're lucky. Somebody might have it laying around and say, hey, I'll do some testing for you. I'll post some pictures. It's a really great outlet for a lot of people to use and come together.
And then speaking about pearls is a perfect way to transition to talking about
Pearlizer.
The mystics of Pearlizer.
The mystics of Pearlizer.
When Pearlizer came out, this is way before people were using pearls.
Right.
Well, this is way before people in the mainstream were using pearls. I'm sure there were some dudes out there using pearls, you know, from here and there. Pearlizer came out in aerosol first, and nobody really knew what to make of it. They thought you could spray Pearlizer over any color, any finish, and you're going to end up with a pearl finish, and that is just not the case. It is a white mica pearl, and you spray it over something, and you're going to be covering whatever you're spraying over with a white mica pearl. It's going to turn it into a white pearly finish. So people ask all the time, well, can I spray Pearlizer over my yellow or my blue or my whatever it is? You just got to keep in mind what the product is going to do or what it's meant to do. The best way to get usage or best results out of Pearlizer is spraying it over white, because you're spraying a white mica pearl over a white base. You're going to end up with a beautiful white pearl finish. There's a couple different white pearls out there. There's balloon white pearl and a couple other ones out there. I think that some of the best white pearl jobs that I've seen are actually Pearlizer over white.
Pearlizer. Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
weird to think that too.
Absolutely.
Because you would think somebody using a fancy pearl from a pearl distributor is going to end up with a better pearl job, but some of those really stunning ones, like I remember a pearl white C7 Corvette or C6 Corvette. It was absolutely amazing when Jared finally dug in and found out what they used on it. It was Pearlizer right over white. So Pearlizer over white works phenomenally.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Pearlizer over black is going to give you like a pearly dark gray. But the problem is when you spray Pearlizer over white, there's no contrast there at all. And it ends up just covering and working and gelling. Mm-hmm. When you use Pearlizer over black or something that has a contrast, you have to get super solid coverage over the black, or you're just going to end up with like a beautiful Bob Ross cloud painting. It's going to just, because you're putting white pearl over something like a black base, it has to be super solid, or else it's just going to look really cloudy. So what I like to do is, if you're not going to use Pearlizer over white, I like to just mix stuff into it. If you want to end up with a pearl blue, mix blue and Pearlizer together 50-50. If you want to end up with like a dark metallic gray, I mean, like we did on the R8, we did it on the Black Pearl A4 video. Mm-hmm. Just mix black 50-50 with pearl, you end up with a dark metallic. That white mica pearl will kind of pearlize and lighten that PDS.
Now, when you say 50-50, you're not talking about all your gallons. You're just talking about your last couple coats, correct?
Yeah, whatever you're going to use for your pearl top coat.
All right.
And what a lot of people have been doing lately, which I think is actually really cool, is they are altering the Pearlizer with other pearls. Now, you have to be careful doing this, because if you've ever seen a gallon of Pearlizer and you've let it settle for a long time, you're going to see a really thick amount of pearl settled at the bottom. There's a good amount of pearl in Pearlizer.
Right. We touched a little bit about that last week, actually.
I don't remember that. But I mean, I'm sure we did. But there's a thick amount of pearl at the bottom of that Pearlizer. Excuse me. So basically, if you want to adjust Pearlizer, you can add more pearl to it. So say you want to end up spraying a bluish pearl or a reddish pearl or whatever it is, you can add pearl to the Pearlizer, but try to keep in mind that you may want to add and kind of supplement that with a little bit of added glossifier. Because if you can imagine what Pearlizer is, it's a gallon of glossifier with a pretty good amount of pearl in it. So if you're going to add another 25 grams to that Pearlizer, and Pearlizer sprays great exactly the way it is. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to add another 25 grams to it, you may want to think of supplementing that with a little bit more glossifier to kind of keep the viscosity and the ratios correct.
Right.
But I've seen a bunch of people, probably a handful in the past 30 days or so, that have actually adjusted their Pearlizer with yellow pearl and blue pearl is what I've seen. And some guy did it with gold, but barely put any in, so I honestly couldn't really tell much of a difference. But somebody added some yellow pearl to it and shot that over a base. I think it was a yellow base. And somebody did a blue pearl and shot that over gunmetal. So the blue pearl that is being added to it is actually going to increase the coverage of the Pearlizer as well. So remember the cloudiness I told you about? It actually helps combat that because you're adding more pearl, and it's not just white anymore. It's got the bluish, so you can kind of even that out. So if you're thinking about using Pearlizer, especially on your wheels, now, I mean, if we're just being honest here, nowadays with the dip pearls and all these pearls that are out there, Pearlizer's not getting in the gallons, not getting the love that it used to.
Right.
It's not quite as a staple of the market that it used to be. I mean, we used to go through thousands of gallons of Pearlizer a month. When the dip pearls came out, obviously there's been a correction there, but in the aerosol cans it still moves quite a bit, and it works really good. If you want white pearl wheels, there's no better turnkey system than to just drop white Plasti-Dip down and throw your Pearlizer aerosols on top of it.
Right.
So that's where we are with that. What was the other thing that we're covering?
The third thing that we wanted to talk about is a lot of people have been asking about dipping their taillights, and what's an appropriate product to use for that. I mean, I know that we have the smoke product, but also, if you want to use a different color or the legality of things like that and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
people actually message me that on Facebook all the time. And somebody actually did today. I might as well give them a shout out here. Who the heck did that? Eric Cotton actually asked me today. He was talking about using smoke and and stuff on his taillights. And first and foremost, if you want to dip your taillights or tint your taillights or smoke them out or whatever you want to call it, you have to check to see if that's legal in your area.
Right.
Some areas it's perfectly legal and some it is not.
Mm-hmm.
So the last thing a DipYourCar rep or employee is going to do, or even myself, is going to instruct you to dip your taillights any shade until you find out if it's legal or not.
Right.
And then if you want to talk about smoke, smoke is okay. Smoke is okay.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. It's a translucent, dark gray, matte finish product. Is that perfect for tinting taillights? Nah, I don't think so. I think a lot of people have gotten it done and did a really good job. And the people that do a really good job are usually the people that spray the smoke and then they coat it with at least 2 wet coats of glossifier to give it that glossy look.
Seen that,
and
yeah.
I've seen a bunch of pictures of that, and that actually looks really good.
Yeah.
So you could get that done. But smoke is what it is. Just know what you're getting when you get it. You're not getting a glossy, and that's really the disconnect. If there is a disconnect at all, it's that people picture tinted taillights that they've seen in the past, and then they think of the word smoke, and they think, well, that's exactly what that's for. And then they buy it, and then they don't get the same replicated results because a normal tinted taillight, if you're going to use a film, is glossy.
Right.
It's glossy and super clear. And when you spray that smoke on, you're going to see a matte finish with less transparency.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to if you want to use plastic products to smoke out your taillights or shade them or whatever you want to call it, at least check to see if it's legal first.
Right.
And then if it is, that's perfect. Use glossifier over it. Unless you really want a matte taillight. When smoke first came out, what car did I have back then? What year was that? I don't even know. I guess I was still in the S4. When smoke came out back then, I used smoke to tint the taillights in the S4. And I used it by itself. And then about an hour later, I was like, I have to use gloss over this. And I put a couple wet coats of gloss, and that changed everything. Mm-hmm. And that was perfect for me. I was like, you know what, I'm going to still, and I think it's still probably even on there. But that's what my suggestion would be for that. So tinted taillights are something you can do with plastic, and a lot of people, I see this all the time, they use black.
Right.
Because nowadays taillights with the LEDs and everything are so bright, you can see right through 3 or 4 coats of black. If you're hitting your parking brake, or if you're hitting your brake lights will come on. I don't know if that's super safe.
Right. Yeah. I always throw out that warning there. Just be careful. You don't want to go super dark.
We've got so much exposure now. We have so many people contacting us on a daily basis. Our liability is tremendous right now. We have to be super careful. And some people think that we're being too reserved or conservative with stuff, but I mean, this is a business. This isn't a joke. Like, if we tell somebody that they can or should do something, we have to be able to stand behind that,
right,
legally and professionally and personally even.
Right, absolutely.
So, and that's why we take things so seriously. I've always said it from the day that we started the company, and I don't care if it's cliche or cheesy or whatever, but it's worked so far. I just want to make sure people are treated the way I would want to be treated when I, interact with a company, and that so far has worked really well. I mean, I don't think we should change it.
All right, you ready to hit up the Q&As?
Yeah, hit me with them.
All right. Well, so obviously we kind of touched on this earlier in the show, but lately we've been mixing pearls directly into Plasti-Dip gallons. We talked about it, about the Evo, but we got a question that can we do this with chameleon pearls, alien pearls, like the more exotic pearls?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you said you've seen it, alien pearls in black, but what's going to be the outcome for a lot of those?
Can you mix color-changing pearls directly into PDS? The answer is yes, and obviously it depends on 2 very specific factors. 1, how many grams per gallon you're throwing in. 2, or let's say 3 factors, and I may make more up as I go. 2, what color PDS you're mixing this stuff into. And 3, are you supplementing that with any clear or gloss to kind of break up the pigment a little bit in the PDS to allow the pearl to show through. As a default answer, yeah, you can mix color changing pearls directly into PDS, but depending on what color you use, expect it to be dramatically muted. I don't know if you're going to be able to throw color changing pearls into the majority of PDS and still have what would be considered a color shift. That is going to be up to testing. And the reality is, I would love to know everything all the time and always have an answer. But if I don't know the answer based on firsthand experience, I'm just going to tell you flat out, I don't know.
And you know what? People love that honesty. We
Yeah.
we get a lot of callers that tell us that straight up, whether we love a product or if we know, and we'll say that's just something you have to test.
Yeah.
They appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't want to say, yeah, this will totally work. And
Right.
then you go try it, you spend your money on it, you wait for the product to show up, and then you put it on your car and you don't get the results that you want. So, I'll tell you one thing, though. You drop pearls into the one thing that we were doing testing, I think 2 weeks ago with Gabe, is if you throw pearls into PDS, if you throw color changing pearls into PDS and then supplement with clear or gloss. So, for example, to keep it simple, you have 1 gallon of glossifier with 75 grams of your color changing pearl, and you mix that in to like a gallon of light blue. So you got 1 gallon of light blue, 1 gallon of glossifier with 75 grams of color change. That 1 gallon of glossifier dilutes the pigment in the light blue.
Okay.
And then what that does is the light blue pigment kind of gives it like a foundation to work on, and it overpowers. We were using it with bluegill, and bluegill has blue in it and green and,
Right.
and weird stuff. So it gave it a light blue foundation, but when you went and you looked back and forth at the hood that we were spraying at different angles, you could see color shift.
Almost like when you did the white base with the white pearl.
Similar,
Right.
but that's almost like a ghosting effect.
Right,
This was
right,
different
right.
than a ghosting effect. We want to do it on a whole car. I think it's going to look pretty muted, but I think when the new top coat comes out, that clarity is going to just knock people's socks off.
Right.
I think it's going to be a whole different ballgame.
I love seeing all the comments on Instagram and Facebook. Even with things that people are excited about. Hey Fonzie, I love what you did here. What's up with that new gloss?
Dude, we put out a video today of the sapphire blue into black and blue. That Evo came out so good, and I was so happy with it, and it was so easy. I mean,
Right.
we were done within like 2 hours, and if we haven't done a matte finish in a long time, a strictly matte finish, and I love the way it's so stealthy and aggressive, and the pearlescence there. I loved that project. It goes up, first couple comments roll in. I swear to God, like
Yeah.
the first 3 out of 5 were,
Yep.
it would have looked better with the high gloss.
Right.
Where's the super gloss?
Right.
Like we've planted this chip in people's brains now, and I don't blame them.
Right.
I'd be
Absolutely.
in the same boat.
Right.
If I was a dipper just out there, I'd be like, dude, where is this stuff?
Right.
And we're obviously pushing as hard as we physically can to get it out as soon as possible. But we've pretty much asked for that. Doesn't matter what project we come out with, but it's it's a double-edged sword, because it doesn't matter what project we come out with, they're going to say, if it doesn't have the gloss on it, they're going to say, where's the gloss? Would have looked better with the gloss.
And then
But on the other side, what am I going to do? Put every project out there with this new gloss and say, here's the new gloss. You can't get it, but I'm going to show it to you every single time.
right.
Which that doesn't make sense either.
Right.
So we're just going to have to do this tap dance, and soon it'll be over.
Yeah.
Soon it'll all be in the past, but we're going to have to really play that little game for a while. What else you got?
All right. Question number 2 is actually, this is a fun one. What was the first car you ever dipped?
Oh, that was the S4.
Okay. And then what did you learn during that project that's still relevant to pass along to like the beginning dipper?
Don't dip a car with aerosol cans.
Or outside?
I mean, it's possible to dip a car
Right.
outside.
But I mean, it's not ideal.
It's not ideal, but it's also not ideal to just demolish the tendons in your hand and try to get a solid, smooth coat on a car with aerosols. But back then there was only aerosols, so I didn't have an option. But yeah, that's what I learned. If somebody was like, I'll give you X number of dollars if you can dip this car and give me a perfect finish with aerosol cans, I'd be like, forget it. Because the time and energy that would have to go into it to do it, to get those wet overlapping coats, even with a dip nozzle. And I actually the last time I dipped the whole car with aerosols is when we came out with a dip nozzle, because I wanted to see if it would allow people in California to finally have an opportunity to dip their car easier. So we dipped the entire DYC A4 with the dip nozzle, and we did it camo tan, which was a terrible decision in its own because that coverage is not brilliant. And it worked. It actually worked pretty good. I was able to get wet overlapping coats, 50-50 overpasses all the way down. And then afterwards, I was still so exhausted, and I went through so many cans. And to make it peelable, I was like, there's no way that I'm going to promote this.
Right.
I'm not going to suggest for people to do this because it doesn't make sense for anybody. And not only that, but I don't care what nozzle you have on there. Aerosol cans are not built to spray horizontally down. They're not made for that.
Right.
So you could have a spray nozzle with a fan this freaking big. It doesn't matter. As soon as you go down to spray with it horizontally, it's going to sputter and it's going to have some problems, and you're going to get striping and fuzz, and just steer clear of that.
Every time I see on the forums, somebody asks, "Oh, how many cans would it take to do this car?" And it's not a terrible question, because for a beginning dipper, if they're watching those first couple videos, that's what they're seeing, and it's a solid question, but I don't even respond, because I know within 20 seconds there's going to be a whole bunch of responses of established dippers that say, "Don't do it. Do it once. Do it right."
Right. Yeah. There's a pro car kit for a reason.
Right.
There are tools for this.
And there's a place for the cans too, emblems and wheels and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So best of both worlds. All right, and then the last question that we're going to hit. There's been a lot of fans that are extremely happy with actually one of our latest videos, the complete guide to dipping wheels, and I thought that was a good video that we decided to do, because it had been a while since you talked about wheels, and there's been so many new products that we've released, and new equipment, and so many new techniques. So people are wondering, are we going to do a video, the complete guide to dipping a car?
Yes. We are ready for that. It's long overdue, and people are really asking for it. And I hate to keep going back to this, but the problem with that is, if we're coming out with a top coat that's essentially going to change the entire game, or when I say game, I mean change the entire process as far as DipYourCar customers are related, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to put the time, energy, and effort into making a how to dip your car complete guide video when that's going to change in a couple months.
Right.
I'm going to be going through this whole process explaining to people, when you get to the pearls, to grab a gallon of gloss, gallon of clear, mix them together and use that. And then if 2 months down the road that's no longer relevant. I mean, look, the problem with those videos are, when we do a car video showing a color, here's the Sora Blue video. It does okay. People watch it. But when we do the process-oriented videos, they fly.
Right.
So, for example, the video that we did that you're just referencing, the how to dip your wheels, the complete guide. That video is like the view percentage is about 500% over our normal average. It's been, what, a week and a half? It's already got like 30,000 views. People latch onto that. They need that. And if we do a how to dip your car full complete guide video, that's going to be the first thing we tell people when they buy the Pro Car Kit to watch. That's going to be the first thing that our product tech team is sending people to when they don't know what to do.
Right.
It's got to be a relevant video. So yes, we're going to be doing that, but we're going to be doing it right.
All right, and I mean, I think that makes sense, and that I think wraps it up for this week, huh?
Yeah, I mean, we're upgrading our technical stuff. We're making sure that the next time that we have a phone interview, that we've got literally the highest quality equipment that we can, so we get that crystal clear experience for everybody. I mean, this is a project that started from an idea, just like everything else. Let's just do it. Let's see if people like it. And we've gotten an insane response from this podcast, to where it became something that we're getting these emails and messages and calls saying, what's the podcast going to be about this week?
Right.
When's it going to be live? So we've got this expectation now. So with that comes, okay, well, you guys are doing your part, listening, participating. We'll make sure we do our part. We're going to give you the best listening and viewing experience we can. So we're going to upgrade all of our equipment and get to that next level. So the next week. Actually, I have 2 guests that I'm trying to get on for next week. I would really like to have 2 live guests next week. I know we want to try to space them out. Show manager over here is always trying to space everything out perfectly, but next week we should have at least one of those guys show up, and or girls.
Twist.
Heyo. And then I think it's going to be fun. But we love doing this. I mean, every Wednesday. I mean, not saying that we're doing them
Right.
every Wednesday. It could change, but we always look forward to the
Absolutely.
DipCast now. It's different. It's
Yeah.
something for us to. I mean, it's still work related. It's still after hours. I mean, I know everybody wants to get home to their families, but it's a really cool way for us to connect with our fans and customers and everybody in the community, and give some other people a chance to get some spotlight and come on and talk about what they do and how they do it.
Right.
We just love this stuff.
Absolutely.
So with that, we're going to be coming on next week. Obviously, if you have any questions in the meantime that you want us to address on the DipCast, email adam@DipYourCar.com with DipCast in the subject line, and we will make sure we do our best. If it's a topic or question that's got some real value to it, we'll get it on, or maybe even have you on as well. So,
And as always, I'll always respond with an answer if your question wasn't selected for us to talk about.
100%. So it's Fonzie from Dip Your Car with Adam. We'll see you on the next one.